Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe, and I'm here with the co-host
You.
CGO or George. We are releasing this on the 27th of May, 2026. Please like us, subscribe us. We release every single day on Instagram, TikTok, and other platforms. Just in the news, just this week, today, we have Mikel Arteta officially won Manager of the Season, which means that none of the managers George and I talked about will won it. Well deserving for him. Of course, there's always several managers deserving for this. So congratulations to Mikel Arteta. And Roger Lebris, maybe he'll win the Premier League next year. Or Andoni Iraola probably won't because he won't be there. George and I will be doing this series because there's a little tournament coming up in about 2.5 weeks called the World Cup. You might have heard of it. It is coming to America. I will be in Philadelphia for 3.5 weeks. George might stop by. Who knows? I might go up and see him. He's a couple hours outside of Philadelphia. We'll still be recording throughout the World Cup. We will be doing a preview of each group over the next couple weeks. This is the first iteration of the tournament with 48 teams. We have 4 groups of 12. Today we'll be going over Group A, which is South Korea, host Mexico, South Africa, and Czech Republic. But there's several groups to go over. There's still going to be, after the knockout rounds, I believe there's going to be a round of 32, which includes all the top 2 in each group, plus several third-place finishers based on points will enter in that round of 32. So it'll be a really different tournament. The first tournament I remember was France 98. I was born in 88. I do not remember USA 94, which was 32 teams. And so this will be new for everybody. I think it'll work out great. I think it's really going to be a really exciting tournament. So, George, let's start off with Group A, South Korea, Mexico, South Africa, Czech Republic. Let's start with Czech Republic. This is the second World Cup they've qualified for. As an independent country, they as Czechoslovakia for a long time. So just as an independent country, they qualified for 2006. I do remember them kicking USA's butt in 2006, and one of the reasons USA did not do too well in Germany. South Africa or Czech Republic still did not advance in this tournament. I've seen them in a couple of Euros do better. I know they've had a couple players throughout Europe, kind of probably some less. This particular tournament, do you feel like there's a player to look out for? Do you feel like they could be dangerous, George? What is your assessment of this Czech Republic team from what you know?
For us to enlighten our viewers, this is their second World Cup as Czechia or Czech Republic. But before then, they were known as Czechoslovakia. And when they were bearing that name, Czechoslovakia, they had made appearance at the World Cup 8 times. And then since they started bearing Czech Republic, this will be their second World Cup. The first one they attended while bearing Czech Republic was in 2006 World Cup. Unfortunately, they were knocked out at the group stage of the competition. And then even in 2020, this 2026, we are hoping that with players like Patrick Schick, who plays for Bayern Leverkusen, we are hoping that Czech Republic will be very competitive. Also, remember they have Thomas Suchek, who plays for West Ham United, the team that was recently relegated in the Premier League. So they have some very decent players in their team. There's one other guy who also once a player of West Ham United. His name is called Vladimir Koval. He's a defender, but he now plays for Offenham in the German Bundesliga. So they have a decent team. And if you remember the way they got to this, the way they were able to qualify for the World Cup, finished second in the qualifying series behind, I think that was behind Croatia. And then they were meant to play kind of playoff against Denmark. A lot of people wrote them off, hoping that Denmark will go through, but they surprised everyone. Remember that game ended in a penalty shootout, and that was how Czech Republic were able to qualify for their second World Cup as the country called Czech Republic. But when they were called, why they were called the Czechoslovakia, remember they made 8 appearances, and their best outing has been finishing as runners-up. 1934, I think they played the final against Italy, and then they lost 2-1. And then in 1962, they played against Brazil. Brazil defeated them 3-1. So that has been the best performance they've had.
I remember them in
Go
several
ahead.
Euro. I remember Euro 2004. They got to the semifinals. I forget who they lost to, if that was Greece or Portugal. Um, but I do remember they're running that tournament. I remember in one of the Euros they had a great back and forth. I think it was with Turkey. That might have been a final game of the group stage, but it was just an epic game. One of my favorite moments in Czech Republic. Patrick Schick had some great moments individually at the club level. I'm excited to see him in the Champions League. Of course, my personal memory of Brazil 2006 first game, or sorry, Germany 2006 first game, where they beat USA 3-0 in a game that was not particularly close. So they've had some great players over the years. I'm excited to see them. George, second team. George, okay, final question. What do you think is a realistic goal for this team, and what do you think is a stretch goal?
Well, I think if they can get to the round of 16, uh, considering that in 2020, I mean 2006 World Cup, they couldn't go past the first stage. Like you said, they only won just one game and they lost two. So if they're able to get to the next stage, I think that would be a good achievement for them. But with the Czech Republic, you can't really underestimate them because when you least expect them to perform. They come out and surprise everyone. So it's not a team anyone should write off because you
Yes.
know what they're capable of doing when they're in very good form. So
Yeah.
I
So
think if they can finish from the group stage, I think that would be a good performance for them.
ultimately, yeah, I think if this team gets past the group stage and gets to a knockout stage and is competitive, I think that most fans will be happy. This is a team who has less players around Europe than they have in the past, and I think that their team base is more concentrated in Czechia, which means for people like us, they're more of a wild card because we just don't know the quality. Typically, leaving Czechia and playing in England or France or Spain is indicative of quality because that means clubs are coming in with higher money for players. But these are a lot of unknowns at a club level, so it'll be really interesting to see. George, next team, South Africa. They've qualified for a couple World Cups, never won a knockout game. Not a couple players around Europe. Lyle Foster was in the Premier League last year, but not a lot of players in Europe. Again, very concentrated in South Africa. Do you feel like this is a team that could surprise people? What do you think?
Yes, South Africa, this will be their fourth appearance at the World Cup, which is a very interesting one because remember, the last time they were at the World Cup was in 2010 when they hosted the World Cup. And remember, on record, they are the first African nation to host the World Cup, which is a very good one for them. I think they've only won two games at the World Cup. They won one when it was the World Cup was co-hosted by Korea and Japan in 2002. And then I remember it was a goal scored by one guy called Nomvete. They defeated the Slovenia 1-0, and they narrowly missed out in the round of 16 on goal difference. So and then I think 2010, when they when they hosted the World Cup, they were able to get victory against France, but yet they didn't skate through to the next round of the competition. So they lost out in the first stage. So this time around, qualifying for the World Cup after 16 years, I think if they are able
New
to
generation.
yeah, if they're able to get to the, round of 32, I think that would be a good achievement for them. Ugo Brook, which is their coach, we must give him credit because a man who was able to tutor this team, they call them the Bafana Bafana, uh, tutoring them and ensuring they're able to get a World Cup slot is something
Yeah.
very huge. Remember, they
Being
finished
honest, I
in the
think that
group where we have Nigeria. Go
I
ahead.
think getting here is a win for this team. I mean, I know the African qualifying can be difficult, but I just think getting here, they're probably one of the teams. It's like this is an accomplishment. It's been 16 years from them. They don't have a lot of players playing in Europe. They have not won. George. Fun fact: between all four teams in this group, in their 100-year history of the World Cup, outside of including Czechoslovakia only as an independent nation, not as Czechoslovakia only as Czech Republic, there's been three knockout games won in the entire history of the World Cup. If you include Czechia starting in 1990s when they split, um, and all three were won on the home soil. South Korea won two knockout games on their home soil. in 2002, and Mexico won one on their home soil in 1986. So Mexico's on their home soil again. So they'll have that opportunity. But just an interesting fact on the knockout rounds. And again, this South Africa team, I think they're one of the teams that's just more happy to be there. They would be absolutely thrilled if they got to the knockouts. George, let's move on to South Korea, who, again, they've qualified for multiple World Cups. This is their 12th, I think I saw. Out of the teams, they probably have the most diverse in terms of leagues that these players are in. They have players in Germany. They have players in USA. The typical path for a talented South Korea and Germany is just the easiest place for them for a lot of reasons. A lot of like Son came through Germany before he went to Tottenham. I think this team, again, they won 2 knockout games in 2002 on their home soil. In 12 World Cups, that is the only knockout games they've won. But they have a lot of talent who's proceeded in Europe. I think that they're on paper are the strongest squad. I think Mexico probably I'll give them the edge just because they're host. But I think on paper this is a stronger squad than Mexico. George, what do you think?
South Korea is not a team one should underestimate. If you look at the way they qualify for the World Cup, they were only the team that were unbeaten, I think, in Asia during the qualifying series. So that is quite a very huge achievement for the team, qualifying for their 12th World Cup. And you know the good thing about South Korea, this is 11 consecutive appearance in the World Cup from 1986, 2026. So what it means is from the World Cup in 1986 to the one that will be taking place in 2026, they haven't missed out in the World Cup. Their first appearance was in 1954 when Switzerland hosted the World Cup. That since so it took them till 1986 for them to qualify, and from 1986 they made sure they have consistently qualified for the World Cup. So that's a very good one for them. Their best finish at the World Cup was when they co-hosted it with Japan in 2002. Remember, they finished 4th place in that competition, and the coach of the Korean then, his name is Gus Indik. You will know him. He's a Dutchman who has also coached in other clubs. He has also handled the Dutch national team. So it was a team that came to the World Cup in 2022 and surprised, 2002, sorry, and then surprised everyone. So, but I don't think they've had the privilege of finishing well since 2002. I think most times they always get to just get to the round of 16 and then they get knocked out. So hopefully this time around, maybe they will be able to at least stretch it a bit further, because the last World Cup before this one in Qatar 2022, remember, they got to the round of 16 and then they were eliminated by Brazil in the round
Yeah,
of 16.
I
So
remember
I
them
think they
beating.
will be,
I remember them beating Germany in 06. I think it was 2 World Cups ago in Russia, where like Germany. And I remember just like
yes,
there was a free kick
yes.
that like it went in, and like I was like, oh, there's no way Germany isn't going to make the knockout rounds, and they did it. South Korea beat them, and of course South Korea I think lost their first knockout game, but it's still just impressive how much they've caught up. 20, 30, 40 years ago, it would have been unthinkable for South Korea to catch up to Germany. They've done very well. And again, to reach a semifinal is an incredible achievement. I remember staying up till 2 in the morning to watch those games against Spain and Italy. So very exciting. What player do you think that we should look out for on this team, George?
Definitely, we have to look out for Son Heung-min, who plays for Los Angeles FC. Remember, he was the former captain of Tottenham before he left after they won the Europa League. So he came to the US, and he's one of those players that you can never write off. Very, very good in front of goal. So I'm
Yeah,
sure a lot of Koreans will be having very high expectation where he is. And then we also have a guy who plays for Paris Saint-Germain. His name is Lee Kan-hee. You will know him very well. Even though he's not a starter in the PSG team, but most times you see that he comes on as a substitute, and then some games
yeah.
they just make him start. So
They have the defender on
he's another very
Bayern
good
as
player.
well, and several
Yeah,
players around Europe. Again, on paper, this is probably the strongest squad in the group. I'd probably give the edge to Mexico just because I feel like home field advantage is so valuable in football, in a World Cup in particular. Like the Mexican players will have support from all around, and I think that'll be great for them. But George, this is a great time. Mexico qualified as host. They beat Bulgaria in 1986 in a knockout. It's their only knockout win in 100 years. They qualified for the World Cup 18 times, which is up there in terms of the most. I didn't realize this, George. Did you know that they were banned from the World Cup in 1990 for playing an overage player in a U20 tournament? 4 overage players in a U20 tournament. I did not know that until today. I was alive for the 1990 World Cup, but I don't really remember it. But they, again, they're host nation, and they did quite well as host nation last time. What do you think their target is in terms of this is bottom of success, and this is what do you think that the floor of success is for them in this tournament?
The good thing about Mexico is that this is the third time they'll be involved when it comes to hosting the World Cup. Remember they hosted the World Cup in 1986, and
I
then
was not
also I
alive in
think in
1986, so I don't remember.
so Mexico is not they are not a new name when it comes to the World Cup because they've hosted it 3 times, and I think they are the first country to have been involved in hosting or co-hosting a World Cup on 3 occasions. So 1970, 1986, and in 2026.
I believe
So that
1986 was
means
supposed to be hosted by another country, and they had to switch last minute to Mexico for some reason. It might have been Argentina. I could double check that. I think I've read that, but I do believe that either 70 or 86 was a last minute kind of switch. But still, a great trivia question.
And then the interesting thing, their best result has only come when they hosted the World Cup. In 1970, they got to the quarterfinals, and then in 1986, when they hosted it again, they get to the quarterfinals. So what does that
What?
tell you?
In 1986, they won a knockout game to get to the quarterfinals. In 1970, they won their group or got second in their group. I don't have it in front of me to get to the quarterfinals. So I think winning a knockout is more important. I think that the game has grown so much globally that getting to a quarterfinals nowadays in the top 8, when you realistically have dozens of countries who are competing. In 1970, you realistically had 20 or 30 countries who are actively trying to pour money into being as competitive as possible. So it's a very different landscape in the football world around the country, around the world, and I think this Mexico team, again, has less players in Europe than we've seen in years past. Jimenez had a decent year at Fulham, but he's 35. He's never relied on pace. I feel like he's always been a fantastic leader. But they don't have a lot of names that I personally recognize, and I feel like that's an interesting wild card. But I think that they've always been better than the sum of their parts whenever I see them play, and I think they'll win a knockout game depending on who they look. It's a matter of luck. They could run into a very difficult team in the first round, but if they run into a run-of-the-mill decent team, I think that they should have a very good chance of winning another knockout round this go around.
Apart from Raúl Jimenez, they also have a guy who plays for AC Milan. His name is Santiago Jimenez. Remember, I think he was playing for Feyenoord before he was signed by AC Milan, because he put up a very good performance while he was still at Feyenoord. So that's one player we should also watch out for. And then they have another guy who plays for West Ham United. His name is called Edson Alvarez. I don't know if you know him very well. Plays in the defensive midfield of West Ham. Even though this season I've not really seen much from him, but he's one of the key players
I
of
thought
the
he was one of the bright
Mexican team.
spots on West Ham this season. I thought he was great. I think that he's a player. When we talked about players at West Ham getting snatched up, Edson Alvarez is a player who I think will find a home elsewhere in the Premier League because he's been fantastic.
But do you know of their goalkeeper? The guy has always been very outstanding. They call him Guillermo Ochoa. He's
Yes.
40 years old goalkeeper. That guy is a very good shot stopper. So
Yes.
it's one goalkeeper to watch out for this coming World Cup.
And the Mexican fans are always exciting to watch, and so it'll be a fun game. So
So,
George,
which of the three teams will be? It will be three teams qualifying from this group. If there will be three, because we're going to have first two teams
well, there's
qualifying to the next stage, and
not
then
every
the
third
best
place
eight.
team. I think it's going to go
Yeah, that's why I say the best eight, the not best teams.
Mexico, South Korea, then Czech Republic, then South Africa. I feel like this is going to be a group where there's going to be 9, 6, 3, 0 points. I think it's going to be very clear cut 1, 2, 3, 4. There's not going to be any draws. There's not going to be anything. I think it's going to be Mexico's going to win all three. South Korea will beat the other two, and Czech Republic will beat South Africa, and it'll be fairly straightforward. Last prediction.
I think it's fair enough. I think
Okay.
it's fair enough because we can't determine which team will finish among the best 8 teams that finished third.
George, I think it's probably going to require 4 points to get to the best 8 in the group of 3. So that means that based on what I just said, that Czech Republic will not qualify. But we'll see. I'm going to close out with their standard questions. Number 1, which of these 4 teams do you anticipate winning the group and getting second? Which player do you think is to look out for? George and I both mentioned Patrick Schick should be good. I think that I'd also mention Hwang Hee-chan on South Korea. I think he's been fantastic in the past for Wolves. He had a poor season this season, but again, he's been fantastic in the past for Wolves. Number 3, what particular game are you most excited for in this group? I think Mexico, South Africa is going to have a crazy atmosphere. Both their fans are wild, so I'm really excited for that. Let us know your thoughts, and thank you for listening.